Hey everyone, it's Evangeline here at eTrailer, and today we have the Kuat Piston Pro 2-bike platform rack for inch and quarter hitch receivers. We'll take a look at how it fits on our 2018 Ford Fiesta. So with this bike rack, you get the perks and features of a premium dual wheel mount rack, but it also has an inch and quarter shank which fits our Ford Fiesta. Since this is pretty much the only hitch receiver you can get on this car, your options are limited, but that doesn't mean your options aren't good. So here with this bike rack, you have a weight capacity of 60 pounds per bike, and you have cool dual wheel mount arms. But the main feature we'll take a look at first is our tilt-away. There's a lever at the center of the rack. We're going to pull that lever and then drop this rack down to a tilt. It does get pretty low, so especially if you have a second bike on there, you may want to consider having your friend help you out with making sure you don't get bonked on the head with a handlebar. But once that is tilted down, look at all this space you now have to open up your hatch. You can hang out back here, maybe switch out your shoes or grab your helmets, grab your waters, all without having to take your bikes off. It's really nice and convenient, especially after or before a ride. To bring it back up, we're going to mainly focus on using the frame of the rack to lift up. Here it snaps back into place in the ready to drive position. Let's talk about how your bikes are on there. So here we have your dual wheel mounts holding our front and our rear wheels. There's zero frame contact. So whether you have a step-through bike, a mountain bike, an alternate frame, it doesn't matter because it's all about the wheels. When you want to take the bike off, that dual wheel mount is accessed by these hydropneumatic pistons. So this is a one-touch system. So all you need to do is hit those pistons with one hand. I like to push them out a little bit further once they're out there. So that's one. Let's press that. 2, add that on super tight. And 3, grab your bike and go. You can also kind of ramp your bike down those arms if you want to, or if you have maybe heavier electric bikes and you'd rather not lift your bike up and over. Now, notice those trays on that bike rack and see those different grooves in there? That's for those different tire widths. So the maximum tire width is going to be up to 5 inches for your fat bikes. We also have adjustability on the arm for different tire sizes. Simply a matter of pulling those levers and adjusting. We're going to bring this back in. Listen to how it ratchets. So that's securing your bike. Once it's in that position, it doesn't go back out until you hit those levers. That allows you to secure the bike in and cinch it down with these arms. This is a 2-bike rack, meaning it does take up a little bit more room compared to a single bike rack. Here on our Fiesta, we'll take some measurements from our bumper to the end of the rack. It sits at 27 inches. That's how much length it's going to add to the back of your vehicle. Backing into your garage, parking into a tight spot, you already have a smaller car, so you do have some extra room to work with. Another thing, though, is ground clearance. From the ground to the bottom of the rack, that's about 19 inches. To where the bikes sit, that's about 20 inches. So with this vehicle and with this hitch receiver, ground clearance is very important. You want to make sure you're not bottoming out and that your bike rack isn't hitting the ground. This has a really good shank rise that will help out with that. Next feature, tilt up or fold up. So you pull the lever you use to tilt away, but this time you lift up and against the car, snaps into place. More measurements. Closest point, bumper to the closest point on the rack, 3.5 inches, so plenty of space there. In fact, you can actually open up your hatch with this bike rack folded up. From the bumper to the end of the car, that's going to be about 13.5 inches to that lever. By the way, that's a step lever, so if you're holding your bike with one hand, you can bring the bike rack down to the loading position just like that. With it folded up against this vehicle, notice how nice and sleek and sturdy it is. It does sit a little bit wide. It almost looks wider than the car, but it's not covering anything. Your license plate, your backup camera, your lights, your window, those are all still visible. Again, opening up that hatch is awesome if you need to put things like groceries and other items away. Now, this does fit into that 1.25 inch with an anti-rattle ball, which helps hold it nice and tight. The downside to that, though, is there really is just a lot of movement with 1.25 inch hitch receivers anyways. Check out the full demo if you want a look at how this worked on the test course. Everything still stayed in, but most bike racks with this vehicle are wobbly in general. Well, with all that being said, solid bike rack, nice features. I liked how it tilted away enough to open up the hatch. I like how it folds up low enough to open up the hatch. Great weight capacity for those heavy electric bikes, easy to put things on and off. If anything, I would remind you to make sure you don't lose any of your tools. It has a security wrench as well as some keys to lock up the bike rack. Those are very important to making sure it works well. Check out the Kuat NV as an alternative if you're more familiar with that single wheel mount design. Also, the Rocky Mounts guide rail is slightly more affordable, but with less features than this, so definitely worth checking out if you wanted to compare. But this one was a look at the Kuat Piston Pro 2-bike platform rack on the 2018 Ford Fiesta.